Let's see.
Hello.
Welcome to the Cobalt first total conversion mod panel. How many here knows what Cobalt is first and foremost, and not the metal, but the game? All right, how many has played the game? Ah, that's so good. That makes me happy. So we are Oxide Game Studio. I am Pontus.
I am Daniel. I am Jens.
Wasn't that fun?
And we've been friends and partners and companions in crime for about, 15 years now? We've been making games together. So this is just a little short picture presentation of our time together. Our story with Mojang started in 2009, I think the first time was we met Marcus down in Malmö. And a couple of years later, Jens started working for Mojang. And then Mojang was looking for a game that they wanted to publish. And we were close at hand. So they said, hey, Oxide, do you have anything going? And actually, at that point, we had started working on a game in 2009, just because we didn't really know what we wanted to do. So we had started working on a platformer game, which we called Project Blueface at the time. And yes, you can skip to the next picture. So this game started out as a pure PC game. It was meant to be a story-based platformer game with traditional controls where you sort of control with the arrow keys and you run around from the side and you jump through this adventure. And then it sort of evolved from there. In 2011, we were nominated to IGF, which is a sort of competition or what is it? Awards?
Indie Game Award?
Yeah. Game awards basically for indie games. And during that time we added local multiplayer. Daniel did it while we were at the convention, which is GDC in San Francisco. And we realized that this game is awesome as a, local versus multiplayer game. Yeah, couch play sort of game.
So yeah, since the game we had submitted for the competition was mainly a story single-player game.
Yeah. But at that time we had also sort of we were inspired by Minecraft and Mojang, who had started releasing their game early, access to the alpha. If you paid a little bit less, you got access to the development build of the game and also the later build of the game. So we thought we'll do that as well, but we also had the idea of sort of being honest with our plans for the game. So we put up a bullet point list of these are the features that we want to add to the game. And in hindsight, maybe that was a bit of a bad idea, because when you make a game, during the time you make the game, you notice some things work and some things doesn't. And you discover the game sort of as you go along. You never know what the game is going to be when you start out. But we made that mistake, or sort of mistake, which meant that we had this very large task ahead of us of sort of completing all the features that we wanted to have or that we had promised to those who had bought the game, but also sort of adding in the new things that we discovered as we went along. But it was a challenge. We discovered also quite early on, since couch play was kind of fun, that obviously it was going to be a good fit for console gaming. Since most people do have multiple gamepads and stuff like that, and it's easy to plug in. Most players doesn't have more than one gamepad, if that, for PCs. So it was obvious that this was going to be a console game. So that started us on the journey of porting the game to a new engine. We started working with a company called Fatshark in Stockholm, together with Mojang and Microsoft, to sort of port the game to this new engine. Because when you make a game, our engine didn't have support for Xbox at that time. So an easier, or I don't know, would you say it's an easier path to go to sort of port the game to an engine that already has support, now in hindsight?
Yeah, well, essentially we had the choice of either adding Cobalt to the engine with console support, or adding console support to the engine that was running Cobalt at the time. Yeah, and as you say, in hindsight, maybe we did the wrong option, but we're not sure. You never know. Like, we can't go back in time and try the other option.
No. At the same time, when we started porting the game to another engine, we also started thinking about, wait, this game wouldn't be awesome if it also had networked multiplayer. But that was sort of, it was more of like a dream to have that, because when you start out making a game, if you want to make it networked multiplayer, you sort of have to have that with you from the very beginning, sort of build that into the game engine to make it work. But we thought when we started porting it and started working with Fat Shark, we could get their help to sort of solve that or tackle that issue as well, or maybe at least give it a try to give it network multiplayer as well.
Yeah, and I guess it helped that it was a demand.
What?
It was a demand as well.
Well, yeah, from the community and from people we worked with, it was sort of, yeah, this is what we want to do. So we set up that as a goal as well. All through this, we continued working on the actual game. The game wasn't done before we started porting it. So while we were porting it, we were adding features. So we were sort of playing a, what is it, cat and mouse game with the Fat Shark team, converting the game that they had from us, or the latest build, and we were adding features, which was sort of, tripping up the development of the porting of the game. So it was sort of a long period of back and forth and trying to add both network and trying to get it to work on or run on a console.
And finish the single player at the same time.
What?
And finish the story mode.
Yes.
In parallel.
But during this time, because it was becoming a console game, we didn't really take a look at the basics of the game. Sort of, we stuck with the basic controls, where you're sort of either playing with a gamepad or running around with the keyboard. So we were never considering, hey, should we maybe look into some other mode of controlling the character, maybe adding mouse control, or maybe thinking about just having one player per computer now that we have network play. But since we've had that list of bullet points, which one of them included couch play, then we couldn't really look into that as an option for the game. Oh, yes. Do you remember what happened 2nd of February 2016?
Yeah, we released the game after a delay.
Yeah, but the main point is we actually released the game, finally. It was out. This was becoming sort of a behemoth, at least in my mind, sort of this constant trying to get the game out. We had delayed it, and we were always, I remember Jens, on several occasions, you asked me and Daniel, so when do you think the game is going to be out? And I was always overly optimistic, and I was always like 6 months from now, it's probably going to be out. It's probably going to be out in 6 months. But it kept on going like that. I remember the first MINECON we came in 2011, I said specifically that this won't become a Duke Nukem Forever story. If any one of you know of Duke Nukem Forever, it was in development for 15 years. Cobalt, what is it, 6.5 years? Yeah.
Let's round it down.
That. So we're good so far. We got a couple of years to go on. But the game was released, and the following months we spent with some updates. This is a log list from the updates that we released, mainly rebalancing stuff in the story, adding support for different gamepads on the PC. We added Survival Online. Survival is one of our game modes that we have, and more things. So that was our main focus the first couple of months. We were sort of trying to improve what we had already released. But with release, we were also able to sort of take a step back. Now all of a sudden we didn't have to worry about being compatible with Xbox and PC and sort of trying to keep multiple threads of updates going at the same time. We could sort of take a step back and look at Cobalt with fresh eyes. And sort of, the idea popped up, what if we would do it all again today? What would we do differently besides not having that bullet point that I talked about earlier? What would we do differently for Cobalt? Cobalt as a game that we have now is a very polished platformer, but it is also sort of in a niche of its own. We have a dedicated crowd of fans that play the game. And there's a lot of innovations in the game. I think we've joked about it earlier, me and Daniel and Jens, about feature creeping, and it's sort of become this joke in the office that we're the sort of feature creep, kings of development, game development. We do like to add a lot of features, but we also try to think of. I think when you develop games, it's really fun to try and be innovative. You don't have to do everything. You sort of take inspiration from somewhere and you try to give it a twist. And a lot of the things in Cobalt are quite unique, so there is sort of a learning curve to get into the game. But that also, sorry.
It's almost like every aspect of Cobalt has a twist. So there's no conventional ground anywhere. It's just a big, nice pile of twists.
Yeah. But I mean, it's rewarding if you get into it, but it's kind of hard for new players to get into. And also, since we're quite a small team and we had all these things that we wanted to cram into a game, we had to cut a lot of things out. It also makes it a bit, messy to get into. You sort of have to know what you want to play. Oh, can we go back to the last picture? I just want to highlight this picture. This is from MINECON in Paris, I think.
Yes.
And this is the final. We had a sort of little Cobalt tournament. The guys sitting in front there are the ones playing the final right now. And the guy on the left, his name is Sven. He's been with us almost since the beginning, I think. And he's probably one of the best Cobalt players that I know. But I just love this picture because you can see how focused they both are. Like Cobalt is, when I play it with either Jens and Daniel or with friends, it's always like this kind of game where you're focused and then you just break out laughing because you do something and you sort of have this slowdown effect where you can see what happens and that makes it funny. It's kind of fun to see when you mess up as well. And then you're back to just being super focused and you have to sort of be on top of your game all the time. Okay.
Also, wait. Take a look at that wither hat on the guy standing behind them.
Oh yeah, that is awesome.
we should make those.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Didn't even think about that. All right. So we also realized that when you play Cobalt as a game, since we had sort of not a unique control scheme, but a control scheme that you sort of have to learn. And it's quite different from a lot of other games, even platformers, with the rolling mechanic and stuff like that. The character is quite slow, but if you learn how to use the environment by rolling and by using slopes and stuff like that, you can go really fast. So it's a physical-based platformer, and you sort of have to use the world. But there is a mindset transition if, like the regular player plays a lot of different games, and if you jump from game to game, you have to sort of, do a switch in your brain when you jump from Cobalt or any other game to Cobalt. Do you want to describe this picture because you made it?
So to sort of wrap my head around my feeling about that topic, I just opened my Steam library and took a screenshots of all the games around Cobalt, basically just games that start with C. And it was just quite telling to me just how different Cobalt is to most other games. Like, there is no other game that uses arrow keys for movement and like the Z and X and C keys for actions in
Anymore.
Anymore. So it became kind of obvious that to move from any of the other games, like even if it's a FPS or a strategy game or anything, you have to change your mental model. You have to switch which hand you're using to move your character. Like, instead of the WSD keys, you use your right hand. And all these small things add thresholds to getting in the game.
Yeah. So a bonus question. There are two Mojang games in this picture, or Mojang-related games. Cobalt is one of them. Which one is the other? Crown and Council. It's an awesome game. It's free, it's on Steam, and you should try it. It's amazing. All right. So we started thinking around this, like, what if, okay, so we have a platformer that's super polished. We have a ton of different features, items, suits for the character, different characters and stuff, a cornucopia of different game elements, game mechanics. And what if we think of these as sort of puzzle pieces and just pick and choose, cherry pick from these and sort of try to think of Cobalt anew? What would we do with these features? Sort of what would happen if Cobalt followed conventions and started being more mainstream? And we've written less innovative here, but I would say maybe not less innovative, but more sort of catering to the general way games are being played.
I think maybe like, instead of innovate everywhere, like maybe innovate in one area and then follow conventions in the rest.
Yes.
Sort of.
So, after all these updates that we had with Cobalt following the release, we had the peace of mind of the post-release heaven, where you are free to experiment and do whatever you want. And we're lucky enough to be able to say that we run our own company and we can decide what we want to do ourselves. So it was time for experimentation. And we set up a goal. We decided that we would make a total conversion of the game with a couple of goals. Again, a bullet point, but this is internal, so this is nothing that we're promising to anyone, but this is for ourselves.
This is our process, I guess.
Yes. Oh, and this is the
blank canvas.
The blank canvas that we started with. Do you want to?
Yeah, sure. Let's go with the first one. No feature is holy, and we should be able to cut anything and everything and have no qualms about it, I guess. No compromises between control schemes, platforms, or number of players, or anything like that. We should just do what is best for one thing.
Yes.
Which then led us to just one player per computer, limits. So we set a limit for ourselves, which we hadn't had before. Basically, I think in the bullet point of Cobalt, it says, as many players as you can fit gamepads into your computer.
And this time we said just one player per computer.
It's a big change for us. Let's use the conventions of PC games when it comes to control schemes. Just one game mode. No 5 game modes and a story mode and an extra tutorial mode and some extra challenges and some extra that. Just one main mode of play.
If you've played a lot of games nowadays on Steam, the ones that I find that I like the most are the ones where there are as few clicks as possible until I get to enjoy the action. Preferably no tutorial, just jump in, press play, and I'm there.
Let's start playing fast.
Oh yeah, perfect.
We like that Cobalt has a high skill ceiling, so that's something we want to go even further with. We want an even higher skill ceiling, but at the same time we want it much easier to understand. And it should be a mod for Cobalt, because whatever we do, we want Cobalt to become better for it as well. So other people could use the frameworks that we build to make this, to make their own mods for Cobalt as well.
All right, so the first thing we decided, of course, was to try out what many people had asked us for, WASD and mouse control for the game. So if you haven't played Cobalt, Cobalt is sort of the original Cobalt, where you're just jumping around. You sort of have auto-aim. You don't aim with the mouse, you don't aim with the controls. That is sort of taken care of by the game if you're, well, we can go into that in another talk on how to aim perfectly in Cobalt. But this time we thought, let's just try it with mouse aim. Let's try if you can run around with WASD and just point where you want to aim your character. And the reason for this is that it actually fits many of the goals that we set up. Sort of it works on one computer, it's easier, it follows conventions, there's less of an explanation gap. You don't have to explain that much to just get in and enjoy the game. And this led to us, again, getting in deep into Cobalt development. Instead of chasing features that we had set up on a bullet point and trying to polish and fix bugs, we were again back at trying to innovate the game or trying to develop the game. And when you make a game, it's a lot about just, okay, let's try this. Let's add the WASD and mouse, and let's try that. Okay, that was fun. So now, what's the goal? What are you doing? Are you playing against each other? Are you playing with each other? Okay, let's try team versus each other. Let's try cooperative, and let's just try different things. So there's like this iterative process of adding something and then trying it out, and then sitting in a meeting with a cup of coffee and some pen and paper and trying to figure out, okay, so what's the next step? And always what we are struggling with and what we've become really good at, I would say, is not adding too much, just trying to make it streamlined, just adding the things that we think fits and not feature creeping at all. And trust me, it's been really hard for us, but
yeah. So this time, I think we've gone through maybe 5 or 6 times as much content as eventually ended up in what we ended up with. Since we've just tested, and then throw it all away, basically.
Do you want to explain why you picked these screenshots?
Oh, yeah, sure. So the first screenshot maybe represents rethinking the heads-up display. So before, all the icons were always attached to each character because the game had to be adapted for many players per screen sharing one display. But now we could have one player per computer, so the icons at the bottom could just be for one player. And since they're there, and you know it's just one person with one control set playing it, you can actually even have the little icons for the buttons. So you can see there's like a little 1 there, it's quite dark, and there's a 2 there. So if you press 1 and 2 on your keyboard, you'll select those things. And those things had to be almost like shown in a tutorial prior. And then we tried out the like co-op thing with various objectives. We threw that away. Then we tried some kind of area control with takeover areas and spawn and.
If you've played Battlefield or something like that, you're sort of controlling an area and then you're trying to sort of control all the areas, and then you'll win the game, basically.
Yeah. And in this version, you had like a bunch of vehicles and friendly robots that spawned in your base, but that became just messy and weird. And then we moved on to trying out some kind of class-based item selection system, where you would pick your character, and then you had like one choice in each category. And that was fun, but it lacked a bunch of other things. So I guess in the end, we went out to find some inspiration.
Yes. Always at least when we make games, and I think every game developer, there are few game developers, if any, that don't like playing games. So obviously you're going to be inspired by the games that you love, or games that sort of are relative to what you're aiming at achieving. So in this case, we looked at first-person shooters like Overwatch, Team Fortress, of course, Call of Duty, Battlefield, Counter-Strike. And Yeah, do you want to say anything about those games?
Well, we like most of them, but there are more specifically, we usually like small parts of each game. Like there is something in every game that's interesting and worthy of grabbing. So that's what we're trying to do in our meetings now. We're sitting around with our coffee and pens and just making these columns with all the games and all their features and like highlighting all the things we liked.
And why we like them.
And why we like them.
Try to break it apart, sort of. And of course, we looked at other 2D platformers like King Artist Gold, Soldat, and T-Worlds. We didn't play that much T-Worlds, but T-Worlds is an excellent example of time to action. So you sort of, has anyone played T-Worlds here? All right. It's a free game on Steam. It's a 2D platformer. You just start up the game and you're in, basically.
It's basically one click and then you're playing.
Yes. All right. Oh, another blank canvas.
Yeah,
all right. Do you want to explain what this is for?
I guess this is the result of our process. After we did all these iterations, looked at all our inspirations, did our graphs, we ended up with something. And that's... So we'll just use the same canvas, I guess.
Yeah, that's what we now call codename Lithium. It's not going to be called that. And yeah, we're open to suggestions for game names.
We're having a little naming suggestion panel later.
Afterwards. So what we have right now is a game that is focused solely on online multiplayer. So basically just one mode, you jump in, it's always multiplayer. We have a well-known convention following asymmetrical team-based objective. Bomb plant is the mission. So one team is planting the bomb and the other is trying to hinder the team from planting the bomb or defusing the bomb.
Is there a question down there? No. Okay.
With a high skill ceiling, as we said, so we wanted to be able at least to be a tad bit competitive, if not amongst friends.
Which means we removed some of the random elements in Cobalt and replaced them with predictable, controllable elements.
Yes. It's round-based with no respawns. All of this sounds very similar to one of the games that was one of our inspirations. If any of you played Counter-Strike, then you recognize a lot of these things in Counter-Strike. It's round-based, there's no respawns, and there's a simple objective. But we do have reviving in Cobalt, so you can sort of revive your teammates as you go along.
Which is more like Battlefield, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to talk about the equipment shop?
So I guess the equipment shop represents the remaining innovation of this thing, where we try to replace almost all other things with convention, like controls, objective, expectations, and all that. This is sort of where we are allowed to innovate a little bit and make something that's unique. So this is where we took a lot of the items that exist in Cobalt already, and then we tried to make them interesting, nuanced, and balanced, and have interesting interactions. And we will show some of them in the videos in a while. But I think the core requirements from us was that we wanted to give the players a high level of creativity when they're composing their equipment. And we wanted to have something with like a rhythm and how would you call it? Different life value. Like sometimes you play and you don't really care if you die, and sometimes you have invested a lot in your life and you feel like it's really important. So those were sort of our requirements with that.
Well, yes. And we also put some focus on meta gameplay, so it's not always focused on what you're actually doing. We're trying to make it so that you're collaborating with your teammates, and there's some strategy involved in the game as well. And yeah, do you want to say the next tagline, Jens?
No.
No, but we're trying to capture the best of the games that we're inspired by. And so yeah, enough slides. Let's take a look at the what we got and the game and walk through it.
We're starting it with the with the button. And I apologize for the extra couple of seconds of loading time. I just rebooted the computer.
Yes. The background image is also temporary, but yeah.
What?
It might actually stay. I think it's
This
quite
will
cute.
be permanent, probably. And like the arcade version now is just there for development. It will basically be a online
Only yeah.
thing.
There's quite a lot of clicks still, but we can improve on that, I think.
Yes.
All right, so first of all, mouse aim. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so we added out mouse aim. And you move your mouse up, and you look up, and you move your mouse down, and you look down. And if you move it further, you can see around you, sort of. And you also have this little dot and a little line behind it that points towards you. And I guess
That's it.
that's it.
And then, of course, the movement is quite similar to Cobalt, only we sped it up a lot more to make it more accessible and easier. We added a new base movement, which is a dash.
Just load 1 minute.
Do you want to showcase the dash?
So dash is basically a fast movement in a direction, like forward or backwards, or like upwards. And yeah, I don't know if I should mention more about that, but it's also used for like. Ooh.
Why did we add dash though?
Yeah, right. We added dash because rolling in Cobalt is like one of the core mechanics that we had before. But rolling doesn't really work that well when you're aiming somewhere, because when your character is rolling around, your gun starts pointing around you and not at the mouse. So it felt like we had to replace it with something else. And the dashing felt like the natural go-to, just a magical movement in a direction. And then we sort of designed everything around that.
Yes.
So it took like one step at a time, always just removing and replacing, and then seeing where we ended up.
So can you dash infinitely?
No. So to make some kind of strategy or tactics around it, we added the limited dash, which are these little balls. So you have 2 energy balls from the beginning, and you can use it to, dash.
All right. Next item on the agenda, suits.
All right. I'm just gonna. All right. Suits. So you have.
First of all, this is a shop, by the way.
Yeah. So you have 5 suits, and each suit comes with like more HP because you're naked before, so now you get some armor. But you also have one unique, distinct ability which interacts with all the other abilities. And should I go through them from the top? Sure. Okay. So you have the first.
Talk about that, yeah.
The first one is quite similar if you've played Cobalt before. It's the time distortion, which is basically the reaction enhancer from Cobalt. So if you pick this suit, you can basically toggle the bullet time that was in Cobalt before, but it's much stronger than before. So if I have someone actually I think they're.
So you've activated it now, and this character that you're playing against, we're going to see better videos later, but you can start it.
Yeah, I'm just going to raise the skill because when they're at derp level, they don't shoot at all. So I'm going to raise it.
So what it does, so each suit has except for the beginning suit, has an ability, and you can toggle that. This ability also uses the balls at the bottom, the same that you use for dash. So when you toggle that, it is active during a time, and what ability it is depending on the suit. And this suit in particular has the time slowdown, sort of bullet time effect. So if something is happening around you and you need sort of more time to think or react to the action around you, you can hit the bullet time and the time slows down in a bubble around you.
Yeah, and so the balance usually is that the suit abilities are often ways to survive, while the dashing is usually quite offensive and movement-oriented. So you're always weighing, like, do I want to move fast, dodge, or do I want to use these more survivability-based abilities?
Get some money and get the next suit.
New suit. Right.
We can maybe show one or two more suits. I didn't,
I'll just show that one.
All right. Just to showcase another ability, this one is our sort of heavy. I don't know if he's got a name, he or she's got a name yet, this suit. But so when you toggle your ability, instead you get an invulnerability shield. So it's sort of easy for new players to get into and sort of not being able to be damaged at all. Except,
Sorry, I get lost in the interactions.
All right. Let's talk a bit about damage zones as well, because now that we added aiming in Cobalt, we
realized before Cobalt was a timing-based game where you'd roll and shoot in a direction, but you never really had that fine-grained control over the actual point you're hitting. But since we added the mouse control, you have perfectly fine control over your aim. So suddenly it became interesting. It became like an accuracy-based game. So if you hit an enemy in the legs or something like that, you do the lowest amount of damage. But if you hit him in the head, it's higher, and the back higher, and the eyes is the highest, basically. So this is from the back now, I guess. Oh, he moved.
When the game is full of action, it's not something I usually think about, but it's like this added bonus.
Yeah.
You get a report, as you see in the top right corner, that you got a headshot, and then gives you an added bonus to your money and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I guess it adds a level of predictable randomness, which makes engagement sometimes go in your favor, even though it feels like maybe you shouldn't have won that.
Predictable recoil.
All right. So we like recoil handling, and we know some games do it randomly, but we decided to, since we had a blank state, we just did it perfectly predictable. So when you're shooting normally, the bullets go up a little bit, and that is then perfectly counterable by like pulling down.
And the reason we did this is also, again, to sort of add a bit of a skill to shooting and running around and shooting.
Like a higher skill setting, basically.
So we talked a bit about the bomb plant objective. Do you want to
All right, I can try.
Showcase that, maybe?
Sure.
So in this case, it's not super clear. Here we're thinking about distinguishing the teams more than we have at the moment, but Daniel's team is supposed to plant the bomb, which he just did, and you can plant it into places for this map. And now the enemy team is trying to get at it to defuse it, but he's being held up. So that's the main objective, either that or sort of defeat the full enemy, the enemy team.
Should I show the reviving part?
Yes. Oh, right. You can do that as well.
Yeah, I can show the reviving part.
Fine. Or I have a video of it as well. So let's see. Let's see.
So, as should I show you? Should we do yours instead?
Yeah, we can do this.
Well, I'll let him show the video since the reviving requires some coordination.
You didn't have any internet now, did you?
No, I don't.
All right. So you're gonna have to excuse the method we're gonna use here. I'm gonna have to refer to a YouTube video that we recorded. It's just me and Daniel playing against each other with a couple of bots on our teams, and the bots are now a bit better than the ones we played with just now. So first of all, is that your sound now?
Yeah, that's me.
Could we get the sound from the Surface go out?
Okay.
Oh, I think they can switch it though.
I don't know.
All right.
Put this one here. Part of there.
Hold on.
Somewhere.
All right. All right. Let's try that. First of all, let's just take a quick look at a situation where I think Daniel is... so the enemy team has planted the bomb, and he's going to try and defuse it. Let's see if we can play this. Wreck this Daniel. So up to the right, you can see the blue guy is planting the bomb. And I'm the blue guy, and my mission right now is to keep Daniel off the bomb, but he got me, so he gets to defuse the bomb. Pretty straightforward. And of course, lots of fireworks, which is important in any game. All right. Next, Daniel is going to showcase, or this is just clips from a full game. A game takes about, what, 15 minutes?
Yeah, about 15 minutes for a game.
Yeah.
So quite fast, but...
So in this case, Daniel's team has the bomb. And he's going to try and get into one of the bomb plant sites.
At this point, I'm sort of unsure where they're guarding, since there's both two bomb sites, and I want preferably to go to where they are not, so I try to stay in the middle for a while.
Yeah, maybe you can, well, let's see how it goes.
Yeah, let's see how it goes.
So Daniel is trying to defend the bomb site while the bomb is taken away. So did you notice that the bullet slowed down before hitting me trying to defuse the bomb? That was because I had the Explorer suit and I had activated it to give me some more time. But I think it also slows down the time it takes for me to defuse the bomb, right?
So yeah, everything around you slows down. So.
Yeah. And the character that Daniel had in this case is the monk. And the monk can do the opposite. He or she can speed up time. So anyone who is in proximity to the monk, when the monk activates the ability, time speeds up a bit, which means you fire faster, you move a bit faster, and you also plant the bomb faster. So let's see again, when Daniel here is running up to the bomb site, before he plants, I think he activates the ability. There you go, you see the bubble around him, which means that he can plant the bomb faster, which is quite handy for that situation. All right, let's see what else we have, some timestamps from this. We talked a bit about reviving, so do you want to tell us about reviving or our philosophy in that?
So yeah, reviving is interesting because in a round-based game where you have no respawn, it can get quite hardcore if you die and then you can't play for the rest of the round. So that's why we like the idea of reviving. And if you've played Cobalt before, like nanogases have always been there, but they've been quite wonky and weird, and their usability has been questionable at some points. So we redesigned the whole gas idea and made them so that only when there is a friendly teammate nearby, they will try to heal you, and if you are a dead brain on the ground, you will actually also be revived. And I guess this will be demonstrated here.
So in this case, you can either have a weapon that shoots healing or a grenade, and in this case, Daniel is going to use the grenade, I think. There he's also using the predictive recoil, as you can see. And in this case, if you see here, that character in Daniel's team who just died dropped a little brain on the floor. And that brain can be revived. So let's see. As you can see, it respawns. And also heals Daniel, so he's sort of behind a protective screen in that case. And of course, he gets beaten because I'm playing him, so it doesn't matter in the end. I'm going to win anyway. Yes.
It's nice.
All right. can take a look at another suit, which is quite fun. This is the stealth suit.
Yeah. Has anybody here played, what's it called? Stealth? No, it was called Iris? No, it wasn't called Iris. The Hidden. It was a mod for Half-Life 2, I think. No? No one? Never mind. One person. Well, that was an asymmetrical game where you had one cloaked monster versus like 5 or something characters who were trying to hunt it down. Anyway, weird tangent.
Actually, in this case, so a bit about this. When we're playing with bots and no other human players, as you can see, I picked, in this case, it's me playing, I think. I'm picking the defender suit. But as you're going to see, I'm going to get beaten quite early on by Daniel. But what I do then is I take over one of my teammates' bots. Since it's quite boring just watching your bots, you can take them over as if you're defeated and if there's an available bot. So that's what happens in the beginning here. And the bot has a stealth suit. So there, Daniel threw a Molotov straight in my face. And I take over this guy. Oh no, it's Daniel actually. I threw the Molotov.
Yeah.
And as you can see, when he activates his ability, he becomes almost invisible.
And so that name cannot be seen by your opposer, of course. So you're basically just this tiny, strange shadow. And I think at that point you had no idea what was ahead of you.
No. But now I know he's a stealthy guy, so I can sort of refocus, and try and find him. See if I can defuse the bomb. Nope. They won. All right, let's see if I have anything else that's fun. Chrono Shifter.
Sure.
All right. Do you want to tell us what that is?
So this is a new item even for Cobalt standards. Some of the shields and cloaking and bullet time you might have seen it in Cobalt before, but this is something we added. And it's basically a gun that shoots a projectile that when it explodes in midair, you get teleported to where it explodes. And every enemy around that explosion also gets shifted down in time and space, so they get slowed down for like a while. You'll see that by their like super slow movement and weird blue particles.
In this case, I'm also having a stealth suit, as you can see. So I can sort of evade them and plant the bomb. And then I die.
But it was a good attempt.
But as you can see, when the shot hits Daniel, you can see there's sort of bubbles. He's now in a sort of shifted bubble, so time is a bit slower for him. He moves slower. If I hit the ground, it sort of has an area effect as well. So you can sort of hit several players, the time will slow down for them. And if you have some sort of melee weapon, you're also teleported to that position, so you can sort of beat all the enemies while they're stuck in a time loop. So that was the original idea, but it's also very good for transportation and sort of evading enemies. Yeah, let's see that again. But unfortunately, he got me anyway. All right, let's see if we have... here's a flashbang demonstration.
All right, so yeah, so flashbangs have been a core item in Cobalt from almost the first version. I think it was one of the absolute first throwables we added. And its utility has been questionable from the start, and then it got more and more interesting towards the end of Cobalt's development. And in this game, we realized those energy balls are like core aspect of the game. So we sort of transformed them into a way to destroy other people's power bars, I guess, as well as all the blinding and everything.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell, but in this situation. So you can see in this case, when I was hit by the flashbang, all my reactor energy was consumed. So I can't use my special ability, I can't dash. But fortunately, I had the Chrono Shifter teleporter gun, so I could still move quite fast. In this case, I'm using it again. Let's just see if I can get a quick shot of the shop again. Here we go. Before I buy stuff. All right. So the short thing about our design philosophy when we're sort of thinking of what we should add, as we said before, we have quite a big game with a lot of items and a lot of different features and stuff that we can pick from. But what we want to do, we want to pick things that sort of go together well and not have too many things. So it's going to be, the idea is that you'll have fun trying to design your own character, and some things go better together and some things, don't. But in the end, you'll be able to create your own unique sort of character. For instance, the monk with the speed up ability is quite good if you combined that suit with a nano or with a chrono shift bomb. And a chrono shift bomb is a bomb that when it goes off, there's an area where time is slowed down around everyone. And if you have that suit, you can sort of speed up and run through that area, even though time is slowed down for everyone else. Another example would be, do you have anything?
Well, basically anything. I think so far I haven't really seen a combination that I don't like. It's quite, there's probably an infinite amount of combinations based on the exponential effects here, but.
We're probably going to put these videos on our homepage later on. It's oxidegames.com or hopefully at the Mojang blog. Marsh, is that good? Yeah. So you can look at them yourself. They're not edited or anything, and they're quite early on, but yes. And as we said, this is a mod of Cobalt, so if you have Cobalt, you'll get this as well. The added benefit to us doing this is that Cobalt also get a better mod support.
Sure.
Yeah, we can just shortly, before, if we have any questions, can just take a quick look at what this mod looks like in code. So when we, Cobalt, the base game is coded in Lua script. Does anyone know what Lua script is? All right, a couple of people. How would you describe Lua script?
It's a scripting language.
Is it easy?
Yeah, it's really easy.
Yeah. Is it a good starting point if you want to learn how to make games? Scripting. An existing game. It's a leading question.
Lua is great for Cobalt. Because the good thing about Lua is that it's a language that you can add to any existing engine. So I wouldn't say that Lua is a good way of getting into it, but if an engine has Lua support, it's great.
Yeah. So this is what the mod looks like that we've done, basically. And this is eventually what anybody here will be able to do as well. So we have we remove some guides. We change some information in the how to play section. We change which game modes are played in the online and arcade modes. We change like the global arcade gravity actor gravity factors and the object gravity factors.
So basically, what we're doing, we're sort of tweaking all the settings of the original game, and it's quite straightforward. It's quite easy to do, and you'll be able to look at this yourself and see what you can sort of do yourself if you want to make a mod of your own or sort of a game of your own. If you zoom out all the way, maybe you can see. Well, you can see it on the right. It's not a terrible amount of code for what we've got, and it's basically a very different game from the original game. So hopefully we'll see people play around with this once it's out. So we have about 5 minutes if anyone has any questions that are related to game development or Cobalt. Do you want to use the microphone maybe?
No, it's okay.
Yeah?
Did you guys get rid of the slide feature as well as the rule?
Did we get rid of the slide feature?
No, the slide feature is still in there.
I just didn't see it.
No, it's since you're dashing a lot, you maybe not using it as much, but it's still there. Like if you're landing in a slope or with speed and holding down, you'll still slide along the ground.
Will the Xbox be updated to the new?
Will the Xbox be updated
No.
to this? No, that's not the plan right now. A fun thing to add in the beginning with the slide. So the slide feature is just that when you hold down the arrow key, you sort of slide along the floor if you have some speed. And in the beginning, Daniel, it was a bug, I think. The gun was switched, so it had sort of the character hold it in sort of a gangster mode upside down, which was kind of fun. You slide back and hold the gun like a,
Yeah,
you know.
but then we optimized the actor like rig code for positioning all the limbs and skeleton joints, and then that was like this weird if statement, like if sliding, then flip this. And
Next question.
Didn't feel.
Will you be able to create your own maps?
Yes.
So the game, if you don't have it, or if you haven't tried it yet, it comes right now with the map editor, basically, and you can create your own maps and share them on Steam. Hopefully, sometime in the future, you'll also be able to play online with other people. Right now, it's a bit of a hassle to play other people's maps, but if you want to play them with each other, yes.
I have two questions. First, when will this be available?
When will this be available?
Not this week, because we're gonna drive around LA a little bit, and and then we'll try to finish it as fast as we can, basically. I don't know, I can't make any promises, and we've done that before, and it usually doesn't work.
Oh, but yeah.
So
it's quite easy for us to update like a beta version on Steam, so not too long, hopefully. This is the map editor.
this is the map editor. So
You had a second question as well.
I was going to ask if it would be available on Steam. Is that the Steam edition?
It's going to be available on Steam. We had another question somewhere. Yes?
I just wanted to notice, I noticed during the gameplay it kicked back to music. Is there music in place that's planned, or like, do you already have it?
We, right now, we're thinking about we have music for the original game, but we're thinking about maybe adding some new menu music at least, and we'll see. We have friends who are good at making music. We'll see if any one of them might want to make some music for us, but we'll see.
Make music for it.
Yeah,
Great.
come up to us afterwards and we'll talk. All right, more questions.
When can you play it?
When can you play it? Yeah.
When is it released? When can you play it?
Well, you can play it in the office whenever. So
Not this week.
no.
Okay.
not this week.
According to that, you can just come up to the office and
Yes, yeah. Post hours. Yes.
You mentioned it's a mod for Cobalt, so when it's released, are you going to publish this source code on GitHub?
The
mod.
question first. What was the
Alright,
question?
So are we going to publish the code for the mod on GitHub? And the mod will be plain text, I think. So it's not going to be, maybe not on GitHub, but you'll probably just be able to open the mod and look at the text, and there it is. So it will be probably a good reference if you want to try to make your own mod that's similar, or maybe if you just want to make like another mod that you load on the side together with this mod. So that'll work as well.
More questions? Yes. What editor were we using?
It is Sublime Text. Well,
I think, yes, we're out of time. Thank you very much for coming, and yes, thank you.